Hello everybody and welcome back to the Wright Ace Attorney Trials and Tribulations walkthrough. It is time to continue on with the investigation phase of Recipe for Turnabout, and looks like Maggie's been taken away for questioning, so we should probably head over to the Criminal Affairs Department and see what's going on. And I have to say, I like that this is happening, like, starting on January the 6th, because it means that in all likelihood we're going to be in court on my birthday. Rocking. There's no reason to be excited about going into court on my birthday, but it just means that it's going to be slightly interesting, I feel. Well, not interesting at all in that respect, but still. So we're going to have a little chat with Gumshoe, and hopefully he can illuminate certain bits of the situation here, because it's a very interesting case, because there's the whole thing of Maggie apparently having a motive for killing the victim, but then also there's the fact that she's adamant there was a second person when the case at hand seems to be that there was no second person. It's all fascinating, but yes, gossip about Gumshoe and Maggie's burgeoning relationship later, I feel. It is quite cute that Gumshoe does have such a crush on Maggie, because, to be fair, romantic relationships don't really form a huge part of the general arc of the Ace Attorney series. Because, I mean, if you look at the original Phoenix Wright, that was mostly about the relationship between Nick and Edgeworth. So that was a rival's relationship. And then Justice for All was about a daughter trying to get revenge for her father. And love didn't really come into it. Obviously there are certain cases which rely quite heavily on it. I mean, you're looking at the very first case of the franchise with Larry and his girlfriend who got whacked over the head with a thinker. And, oh God, what other ones are love-related and relationships? Well, I suppose you've got the whole marriage of Ron Delight and Desiree Delight in the last case, in the previous case, I should say, of Trials and Tribulations. And, yeah, but I would say that Trials and Tribulations actually does start to put the focus a lot more on people's romantic relationships, because well, in the first case we had Nick and Dahlia Hawthorne's relationship and the love triangle that sort of was there, but also there was mention of Mia's boyfriend. In The Stolen Turnabout you had Ron and Desiree, but you also had Pearl getting all agitated over Nick and Maya's relationship and how she sees it as being a romantic star-crossed lovers type dealio, while Nick and Maya see it as more platonic. And then in this case you have the relationship between Gumshoe and Maggie. And actually, going forward, all of the cases in this game have something to do with relationships. And in a way, I suppose that's because the games have sort of worked so hard to deal with character and how characters interact with one another that it sort of makes it the logical conclusion to the trilogy that everything revolves around the most intimate type of relationship that people can have with one another, by going straight in for the romantic stuff all through the game. In some cases it's more subtle, some cases it's much more obvious, but I do think it's a nice touch because it means that Trials and Tribulations has nice overarching themes, because you've got the whole thing of love, you've got the whole thing of Nick continuing to try and prove himself, and truth and justice and all that jazz. So I suppose that's one of the reasons why I do love Trials and Tribulations so much, is because it has those themes and it just creates a really satisfying experience as a whole. And ultimately, Trials and Tribulations is much more satisfying if you've played the previous two games in the trilogy. However, that said, it's still a really satisfying game to play just on its own, because it feels like a nice self-contained narrative, but there are the callbacks, and it's done very well, I feel. And yeah, that girl was weird, and B Avenue? Of course, it's Maya in a maid's outfit, trying to speak French. Obviously what she's trying to say is bienvenue, which is like welcome. I mean, basically it's because it's bien, which is the good or well, and venu is come or coming, so it's welcoming, so welcome. Makes sense, doesn't it? But it makes me think of all those times of... So there's a stereotype with us Brits of whenever we go to foreign countries, we either horrifically butcher the language. Like, obviously in my commentaries, whenever I'm speaking foreign words, I try my best to make it sound accurate. But there's the stereotype of Brits, and I think it does apply to Americans as well, of just either horribly butchering the thing or saying English words loudly and slowly to try and get your point across. But it's why you have things like, instead of Les Miserables, you get Les Miserables. Or instead of papillon, you'd get papillon. Because there are certain words that we just don't see properly. So merci would probably be like murky or mercy. And you can get some really, really hilariously bad pronunciations of French words, because they're just ridiculous. I mean, particularly, obviously, one of the things that people do tend to struggle with is R's, because in France everyone rolls their R's. It's something I can only get every now and again. The sort of sounds like you're clearing your throat. It's not quite like that, but arrête, that sort of thing, because arrête is stop, I believe. I don't know whether it's arrête or arrêté, but it's something along those lines. I'm trying to remember French. I mean, it doesn't help that the French language, I'm pretty sure there's a branch of government or something that they debate what words they will and will not allow into the French language, because they want to kind of try and keep it pure and historically accurate, which is weird, because language evolves. And sometimes what will happen is you'll get a word that gets sort of imported from another language. So, like a portable CD player, I'm pretty sure is the Walkman, obviously based on the Walkman. But sometimes they will allow words like that in, other times they will create French words specifically for that object. Not that it ever really gets properly used in normal conversation, because people just go with the slang, but that's your lot. Anyway, we've found the Magatama, which is great, and we've also found this really odd small green bottle that looks very much unlike anything in his John Armstrong's aromatherapy things, which is really odd. And, oh, God. That scooter's looking a bit beat up, innit? Like, really bad. I mean, also, yes, who would leave it right in the middle of the park? But then there are some absolute lunatics out there. You've got people who don't know how to park in general. Like, they double park, they do the park across driveways, and there are also idiots who reverse out of their drives without looking at what the frick is coming down the road. Actually had one of that happen to me this morning, which was unpleasant. Thankfully, obviously, I was going fast enough, and it was just like, what the frick are you doing, man? But thankfully, nothing happened. I just got past, and to be fair, I felt as angry as this guy looks. Although I didn't go like Garoo or Gra or whatever. And also, I'm loving the sort of Brooklyn accent he's got going here. Going, you saying you Phoenix Wright? That's not a Brooklyn accent, I know. I'm sort of going Cockney gangster, but even then, nowhere near that. Sometimes I can do accents, as I've said. Sometimes I physically cannot. But yeah, that better not be our phony, because that would be ridiculous. Because, yeah, apart from, you know, the hair, and I mean, to be fair, that's basically where we are going to go with that, because basically Nick is his hair in his blue suit. He doesn't actually have a orange face, but still. But now that we have the Magatama back, we can actually see Victor Kudo's things. Not that we can actually do anything about it just yet, because we still need a little bit more information. And that's why we're going to go back and see Gumshoe and hopefully get that little bit of information, because if we can break Kudo, then we can probably break Armstrong. And that will make me very happy. And, ooh! So the doodle on the paper is the victim's handwriting. And it's from the day of the murder, so very interesting. And it is odd that we started taking orders from Gumshoe, but to be fair, we'll just show him stuff because he wants to help Maggie out, we want to help Maggie out, we're all working towards the same goal here. It makes sense. Now, obviously with that guy that we bumped into, he was saying use and dis and that sort of stuff. And basically it's because it is based on a Brooklyn accent, and some of the things are Italianized terms, so using dis instead of this. In the Italian translation of Trials and Tribulations, he uses the letter K liberally throughout his sentences, which is very rarely used in Italian, which in actual fact implies him to be foreign. In the original Japanese version, he speaks with a Kansai accent, which is the southern central region of Japan's main island of Honshu, and includes the prefectures Mie, Nara, Wakayama, Kyoto, Osaka, Hyogo, and Shiga. So, basically it's the slightly more occupied bits. Well, not entirely the most occupied bit, but it's the cultural and historical heart of Japan, and it's obviously very important to it, because it houses the capital city, or at least what was the capital of Imperial Japan. And it is the second most populated area, well, Osaka, Kobe and Kyoto, the second most populated area after the Greater Tokyo area. So, it makes sense that he's from around there. But, let us break Mr. Kudo's Cyclops, because, yeah, the food is awful. I mean, to be fair, I would never go for lobster anyway, because I don't really do seafood, or shellfish. Same thing, but I'll have a bit of fish, mostly in a fish cake or fish fingers. Normal fish can deal with, but not a fan. Would never go for a lobster anyway, but it did look lovely, but I'm sure, as Big says, tastes awful. And yeah, I don't know why this guy is trying to lie to us about these things. I'm sure it's probably because he's embarrassed that he's a regular at a place that's extortionately expensive, and which has really awful food and drink, and has sexualized waitresses. Like, in certain places, that is a thing that people enjoy. I mean, you've got the whole maid cafe thing in Japan, which is, as far as I'm aware, still a pretty big thing. And I suppose you've still got the popularity of certain restaurants in America, like, I think it's Hooters. This is me not really knowing restaurants around the world and stuff, and because, you see, that's the type of thing I don't look into. Because, like, unless I'm actually going to a country on a holiday, and I'm going to need to know what restaurants I want to be going to eat in, you just get the hearsay from the internet in a sort of general sense, which is fine, but it's not particularly helpful when you're trying to talk about things like this. But, yeah, the real reason that Victor Kudo, well, he hasn't given his name yet. Like, I've just been calling him his name this entire time. But it's fine, because it's not going to give anything away about him. But yeah, he was just there for the girls and the maid outfits. He's basically just a dirty old pervert. And there we go, we have broken him. So right, mate, give us the goss. Because clearly, if you're being a dirty, wicked, sinful old devil, which you indeed are, then you should know some stuff. And actually, whilst we're here, I might as well do a little bit of talking about Victor Kudo, who has finally just given us his name. So his song is "How Sad the Melody of This War Song." You can sort of get that because you've got the march, which is quite good. In every language bar Japanese, his name is Victor Kudo. In Japan, his name is Shuhei Igarashi. His Japanese surname means 50, and his given name, Shuhei, contains the kanji for storm or difficult problem, and officers and soldiers. His full name could therefore be read as 50 Officers and Soldiers Storm, so it gives you the whole battle type thing. The English name, Victor, is a given name that comes from the Latin for conqueror, vanquisher, or victor, like the victor of a battle, which is obviously entirely to do with battling. And then his surname, Kudo, is Japanese, and is an indication that his character is meant to be Japanese, which makes sense, because he mentions that he was born and bred in the land of the rising sun. There's a whole thing to do with kimonos that he talks about. I mean, if you look at his design, he's clearly heavily based in Japan, and considering the game, you know, is actually based in Japan, it makes sense. There is also apparently a chance that his name may be a reference to Victor Hugo, because obviously not far off, who is the French poet, playwright, novelist, essayist, visual artist, statesman, human rights activist, and exponent of the Romantic movement in France, who famously wrote A Hunchback of Notre Dame and Les Miserables, which is always fun. His white headband and rigid haircut were intended to make him seem like an old-fashioned Japanese labourer, and only his big red nose softens that exterior. The design of his shirt is a hiragana, which is new inside the circle. He's also apparently one of only 2 named characters in the entire series who is known to have had a birthday during the timeline of an Ace Attorney game, and the other being the character Dustin Prince, although the actual date of Kudo's birthday is not known. Kudo is also one of 2 characters, the other being Cody Hackins from the original Ace Attorney, for whom Mia Fey's wiles are used to get them to talk. He's also, well, at least until Turnabout Blaze, he was the oldest character with a known age to make a physical appearance in the game. Turnabout Blaze being from Ace Attorney Investigations Miles Edgeworth. That case, Turnabout Blaze introduced Quercus Alba, and he was for a short time the oldest known character before, well, a character is going to get introduced at the end of this case, who is actually older, but he never physically makes an appearance, so that makes sense. And what's quite fun is Victor's song, the How Sad the Melody of This War Song, will play at a much later point in the game, which is actually quite fascinating. But I will talk more about that when we actually get to that moment. And thank God Mia possessed Maya's body, because, yeah, we needed the extra boobage and the extra buttage to get him to talk. But it did prove quite helpful, because it's given us a little bit of data, or a little bit of information on John Armstrong to prove that, yeah, he's been previously convicted of stealing from his customers, which is really quite bad. So, we are going to break that cyclock that is on you, Mr. Armstrong, because it's kind of the last thing we need to do today, to be fair. Still creeps the ever-loving hell out of me. I think it's the bulging belly in the tight, armless chef's outfit. It's just slightly terrifying. So, ooh, a lottery ticket, eh? This gets more and more interesting by the minute. So, annoyingly, that would give somebody a motive for murder. Oh, apparently that was what... Okay, that makes sense. That was what got Maggie sent down. But here's the thing. One, unless he, shouted it out loud, which he might have done anyway. Would she have known? But to be fair, Armstrong's the one who tried to steal it. You see, because it makes sense, because he's been convicted before. Ooh! Nice little callback to Mask. Nice. But yeah, so we have the proof from Victor that he's stolen before. He's a repeat offender. And we also have the deets from Gumshoe that he's in quite a lot of debt. And also, he's stolen recently because he nicked down Magatama. Found in his kitchen. So, you're not worming your way out of that one. And I think actually this marks one of the only times that the Magatama is presented as a piece of evidence. Obviously we are presenting it to people to start the cyclock breaking thing, but I think that is actually the only time where it is presented as a piece of evidence to do anything, which is really quite awesome. So I am liking the use of May, because May is but essentially. So Maui is but yes, and yeah. So loan for $500,000, lottery ticket for $500,000. Ka-ching! Unlock successful. And now we can finally get him to talk, because it's been a wily one trying to worm his way out of this one, but no. Professor XGamerRichy always gets to the bottom of the case, because that's just what a gentleman does, after all. And, oh, okay, so he did shout out that his ticket were worth $500,000. Makes sense. But, so, he didn't kill him, but he did nick one of the tickets. So, why would Maggie be equally pled guilty of murder because he wouldn't necessarily needed to do it. And... Oh? Oh. We were just getting somewhere, man. Like, we were just moments away from getting the goods out of Armstrong, but oh, bugger. Oh, please don't tell me it ended up in Maggie's pocket. It ended up in Maggie's pocket, didn't it? But no. It is fine. We are good. We've got pretty decent amount of information now. And a few leads that we need to go down. So, I think this investigation has drawn to a close, and it's time to head straight into court. Let's go.